Hello and welcome to the Cryptocurrency News channel. If you want to join me on my live streams, I'm streaming on my backup channel, Good Free Photos channel. That link is in the description in the comments below. I also have another channel called Crypto Daily Updates. That link is also in the description in the comments. Check it out. So let's actually talk about today's topic, which is this Bitcoin and crypto rally is extremely illiquid and it's a manipulated rally. Now, there is an article out there right now that actually explains it really well. It's actually on Bitcoinist. And basically it says it's extremely illiquid. And we've seen that because it rallied to 9,200 yesterday. And now it's back at 8,600. It was like 8,400 2 minutes ago. So you can see there's no resistance between probably like 8,000 and 9,000. There's probably zero resistances, which means like a small buy of a couple $1 million. I say small because, a couple $1 million might seem really big to you guys. But it's actually very, very small in terms of Bitcoin, which has like, a market cap of over $100 billion. It's a very, very small buy, can actually move it a large ways. It just swung 200 points within the span of 5 minutes when I was getting some bananas from the fridge so I can eat them. So it's very, very like illiquid right now, which means it's kind of dangerous to sell off and sell on. But the thing is, like, it's a haven right now for swing traders and especially day traders. These sudden 100-point movements is like gold for day traders because day traders can trade like every 15 minutes. And sometimes these things swing so wildly, that you can actually make a lot of money in a day. Now, I'm not a day trader, so I'm not really taking advantage of this right now. And I know many of you aren't either. But for the day traders, even the ones that work off of TA, even if your TA is wildly inaccurate, which honestly, most of the TAs I've seen recently are wildly inaccurate in trying to predict small swings on the price, it doesn't really matter because you can just wait a couple more hours and it'll probably swing the other way. It went up to like 9,300 yesterday. Now it's gone down to as low as 8,400. And if you watch on Live Coin Watch, sometimes I don't follow the depth chart that much on Live Coin Watch, but I've been watching it lately because it's been like a decent indicator of which way it's actually going to swing next. Right now, it's pretty even, so it's very hard to see. But if you actually looked at it yesterday, the sell pressure, when it was at like above 9,000 yesterday, was way, way above its buy pressure. So now it's actually come down. Now it's about even. But the sell and buy pressure on Bitcoin has changed pretty dramatically over the course of a few minutes or a few hours. So right now it's very, very uncertain. But we know that this is not an organic pump based on sentiment. It is a whale manipulated pump. And we know that because we've seen many big Bitcoin movements on whale watchers. And if you want to know the addresses of like what's going on and like which addresses are actually moving, follow them on Twitter, whale alerts on Twitter. They'll actually give you the goods on all the coins. Now, there are other movements on whale alerts. For instance, KNC moved 1 million KNC yesterday. XRP moved a bunch of XRP yesterday, but those are more or less irrelevant in the general market. Even Ethereum movements are more or less irrelevant. It's all the only thing that really matters is the Bitcoin movements in the general market because that drives the entire market. And there's been tens of thousands of Bitcoins moved, and there were like millions and millions, hundreds of millions of Tether moved to Binance right before this rally. So that tells me right there that this is a Tether manipulated rally. And because it is a Tether manipulated rally, it won't be able to sustain. But even though it won't be able to sustain, it could still flash rise up anytime during this time period. Because if they start manipulating again with Tether, they could move it up another 1,000 points fairly easily. However, I do think it is the whales basically taking advantage of small investors right now. Because what they're working off of is like everyone knows the halving is coming and everyone's getting excited about the halving. So a lot of the newbie investors are actually thinking, oh, this is where we go to the moon. This is when we go to the moon. And, the whales are actually riding on that and taking advantage of that because they're basically starting to manipulate a little bit with Tether. And then the smaller investors are going to FOMO in, pump it way up so they can sell at the top. And them doing like every single gyration, every single swing they do, they're going to skim a little bit of profit off the smaller investors who are actually day trading because the smaller investors think they're really, really good at day trading and they can actually read the market. But the market is basically moving however the whales want it to right now. There's almost no liquidity. Despite the saying there's 200 million of liquidity, that doesn't mean anything. There's pretty much no liquidity right now in Bitcoin, in the prices up to maybe like 9,000 and down to maybe 8,000, and probably no liquidity below that because we came up from about 7,500 and we could easily go down to that again. You think dropping 1,000 points honestly is not that hard right now, and we could even drop more as we get closer to the halving because, you know, I bet a lot of people are actually taking longs now. And the thing is, like, if the whales decide to sell down to like 7,500, a lot of those longs will liquidate and it could push us below 7,000 on a fairly easy basis. This isn't something that's hard to do. We've seen it happen on the upswing because a lot of shorts liquidated at BitMEX, like something like over 100 million liquidated at BitMEX. And the same thing can happen to the longs because I think a lot of people did actually leverage with longs now because they think it's a bull market. It's not a true bull market right now. It's basically a halving pump that's manipulated by whales, and it could go up even further. It could go past 10,000. I'm not doubting that. But the thing is, if you take a lot of leverage, with, you know, like 20, 30x, it could easily go badly the other way too. So right now you should not play, well, I don't think you should ever play with massive amounts of leverage in cryptocurrency, but right now I don't think it's a good play. It's a very bad play actually to go long or short because you don't really know which way the whales are going to manipulate it. And if you guess wrong, you could be out a lot of money. Even if you put a stop loss at 2%, at 125x on Binance, you could lose 250%. That's what you got to think about when you do these massive leverage trades. You can't only think about what you're going to gain. You have to think about what you're going to lose. And you can actually lose like your car, your house, or anything if you do 125 leverage and you get completely liquidated and you lose all your money. Or if you forget to put a stop loss, you can lose way more money than you actually have. So right now, I think it's like if you're swing trading, just buying and selling, I think it's a pretty good time because you can take advantage of the wild swings. But it is a horrible, horrible time to leverage 100, 200x because one small swing the other way, which could easily happen, will wipe you out completely. So right now, that's what I wanted to say. The pump and dump right now is heavily manipulated. It is actually been manipulated by large amounts of leverage trading by whales, and it's also manipulated by the tether buying of whales. And I think they're just suckering in the little fish and then flushing them out later. So right now, be careful of this market. Start paying attention to some of the liquidity charts on the major exchanges. See which way it's actually going. And, you know, like watch as we go towards the halving, because I think as we go towards the halving, when we get very, very close to it, we might spike and then we're probably going to dump after that. I do expect a retrace after the halving. How far, I am not sure. I hope it retraces 50, 60%, because if it does, then I get to buy in cheaper. But according to the last halving, it'll probably only retrace 30 to 40% according to the last halving, and that's the only data I really have to go on. So it could retrace suddenly to like below, like around 5,000 after the halving. But if it does that, I'm still pretty assured that about 2 or 3 months later, it will actually start to come up. And at that time, it will probably start to come up permanently because of the mining pressure. So that is the episode for today. I hope you enjoyed it. Like and subscribe and hit that bell notifications button. Thank you and have a nice day.